These aren't elite group mobs, but for one-on-one type of fight.
Okay, let's finish very fast this live. This new completely empty update of a chaotic game uh, that simply show no content at all, and it just show visual graphics that are meant to uh, advertise a game that still we don't know if it exists. So let's see what this magical mix of all the best MMO is, okay, because it's very tragic and it's scamming. I mean, it's just deceiving many MMO lovers because they trust them and not understanding that this is just marketing. Okay, this is just completely marketing, that they are just publicizing a product that and they are doing it in the right way to deceive you, but it's not going to be amazing or I mean maybe better than the trash we are used in the now we are used to very bad video games. So let's continue.
Yeah, I like in the solo areas. You know, this for me, this speed feels pretty good, given that I'm a DPS class, and these guys are particularly susceptible to rangers because they are mage class NPCs. But getting your guys' opinion.
He doesn't he doesn't even understand what he's talking about. He's just throwing such random statements like mages are weak to rangers abilities for no reason. He doesn't even explain why, or I mean it's like all their streams are just full of bullshit or simply copied fro- uh, copied texts. I mean, how do I say it? Um, how do I say it? Copied. Um, I mean, copied says. So anyway, they just copy other people's thoughts and they express those thoughts, so they seem legit. Okay, Steven. Yes. They are doing some good stuff. Okay, they are doing some decent. Oh wow. Okay, they are doing some decent. Um, some little adjustment and they are taking some good designs from other video games because they aren't a video game designer. They don't design a shit. They don't know how to design. They simply take from their experience as players. They take what they think is good and they try to combine all those good experience from the past. And this is just going to end up very bad. So yes, it doesn't mean those updates are have bad content. It's just that it's very little and it's not original. It's not uh, innovative or good either. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad.
on those things. Also, the differences between the weapon types, right? We talked a little bit about the longbow. We talked a little bit about the short bow. Being able to kind of give us feedback on how you feel the direction has gone now. Is this the type of ranged combat you're looking for?
He always do this question, and there are always it's so tragic. This world situation is, oh my god, people's are giving feedbacks about what they think about the current situation. Some people agree and other people disagree, and Steven knows that. So I don't know why you need to hear more of. You need people to repeat you again what are the problems. The fact is that you are you are not able to solve this issue and to design a proper system that achieve what people want. It's not like if you say that you want more feedbacks, um, uh, you will understand better how to fix the game. It's not. If you can, if you have the talent, if you have the skill and experience, then you can do it. So yes, Steven is just a marketing guy, and he did this for a living. He made a lot of money. He deceives people because that's how marketing work, and that's it.
For those of you out there, especially who are bow users and enjoy these classes, what is it about the games that you have played that you felt had good range combat?
I mean, he loves video game, but he also doesn't understand that he doesn't have the competence to do a video game. He's just trying, okay? The fact that I don't like is that they are selling and hyping something that is not. That I mean, it's like you are a beginner painter and you hype yourself as one that can make the best painting in the world, okay? And you are simply lying about your abilities and your level of I mean, so
That in it, and are you seeing elements of that demonstrated in this type of combat as well? I can tell you that obviously seeing it is one thing. In Alpha 2, those of you who have access will be able to give us kind of your feedback. Of course, that's not under NDA, so all of us.
It always repeats the same thing every stream. It's so boring and pointless. It doesn't lead to anywhere. It does never thinks about design, never talk about design problems, or there is no creative process in his streams, activities, and interaction with the public. It's I don't know why people keep following this absurd desire of something that will for sure not that for sure isn't real. Okay, there are always people that that don't that fall for certain lies. Okay, that's why marketing work. So
Let's get to watch and participate in Alpha 2 through watching others play it and getting their feedback and experiences as well. Another thing that I think is pretty cool that I wanted to talk about actually was these weapons and the types of skill trees that they have associated with them. Trey, do you want to talk to us a little bit about how these skill trees interact with the weapon?
how?
For sure, yeah. part of the plan with each of these weapons is they'll each have a unique skill tree associated with them to differentiate them not only in terms of feel, but also in terms of mechanics. And an important thing that we really want to capture in Ashes is the ability, basically, so the player can build their character, how they want, and that extends beyond just their class choice, right? So, for example, if I'm the ranger, I can spec into my short bow or I can spec into my longbow, and those will be two very different builds. For example, the short bow may specialize or have a part of its tree that specializes in applying bleeds, and bleeds might synergize with specific ranger abilities that the longbow might not necessarily synergize with. So weapon choice will play into like what abilities and your archetype you're specializing in. There's just a lot that goes into it, and we're just starting to scratch the surface of that.
And you would also want to take into account the enemies you're going up against, what areas you're going into, what enemies you're hunting, and is it a player versus a monster? Players.
Okay, so yes, of course they took also this idea from another MMO, and that's not bad because you need to take nice ideas if they can be applied to your video game, and yes, it's just better to make a more complete video game. So yes, making weapons more complex and giving to the weapons certain abilities is a good improvement, okay, from older MMO. The problem is that you you need to balance the weapons, and I don't think they will be able to balance very well, and they show that already that they have problems on doing so. But yes, until we don't see what they actually are talking about, and we have just an idea or promise about the, I mean, they did show a little bit of those skills, okay. I mean, it's just nothing special. It's just they are just few abilities that you can press and activate. Nothing exceptional, nothing new. Let's continue.
Very differently, and is a longbow getting the drop on them important? Are you spec for short bow for being dodgy and moving around them? You got all those things to keep in mind.
Absolutely. Well, guys, appreciate you joining us today to talk about this stuff. It is amazing that the world you guys are building, the mechanics here. I hope everyone in
No, people is not joining to talk about. Is joining to listen, okay, to get because they hope for something great, great that you like drop with the how you call it, the, I mean, with the grams, okay. You drop very little content at a time that isn't either great, it's just basic.
the audience has enjoyed the demonstration. Talk to us, give us your feedback, tell us what you liked about it, what you would like to see changed. Make sure you do so on the YouTube video and Twitch, on Reddit, on our forums, everywhere you possibly can. It means so much to us to be able to kind of reflect on what the community has to say about the works in progress we're showing you towards Alpha 2. Jeremy, Trad?
After like one speech, they then say again to give feedbacks. If you remove all the times he repeats the same things about about them being good developers, because they use the magic word feedbacks without even knowing what it means, then yes, their life would become like 15-20 minutes live. I mean, 1 hour live or what? Just repeating the same thing again and again and again.
Thank you very much for joining. It is always
Yes,
appreciated.
thank you,
Hearts in
you too.
chat.
Many
These
times
guys
I
are
say thank you.
awesome. Yes, purple heart. These guys are doing awesome work. And I'm
Awesome,
loving the
fantastic.
progress. And
Thank you.
I'm loving sharing with you guys. I know you
Feedback.
and everyone else on the team who make these streams possible enjoys it.
Oh
And
my
with
God,
that
thank
said,
you.
everyone, we will see you back on stream.
Thanks, everyone.
We are
Have a good
on
one.
stream. Ah, okay. What the fuck is that? A break?
Well, we hope you all enjoyed it. It seems like there's a lot of mostly hearts in chat, mostly happy. I know there.
What? Oh my God. When few people are happy about something, it's like politicians' tactics. You have a few people that are excited about a politician, they believe in him, and politician just try to show only those peoples. So it seems that like a lot of people love them, but in reality, uh, uh, I mean, it's not all those nerd people that love them and follow them, of course, are going to put hairs. But let's be real. What did they show now? Did they show something cool, exceptional? No, they didn't show anything particular. They just shown uh, like how to shoot with the bow and arrow in a basic video game. So I mean, you can do this with an engine in like one day. I mean, it depends on how would you make it. You if you want to make, I mean, it depends from the engine, but it's not something something amazing. So
There's some questions and concerns that you all had, and I'm going to try to address some of them.
it's just a tab targeting, right? It's just a tab targeting hit with the bow and some abilities, nothing very difficult to make.
We can't be here all day, so we can't answer every question, but it seemed like there was a little bit of confusion in regards to our hybrid combat system and how that's going to work. Basically, what are the
Oh,
advantages and
nice,
disadvantages of using tab or action when it comes to being ranged, or, I mean, we showcased a little bit of that in the melee as well. But if you want to kind of address that, I think our hardcore fans probably know, but I think there's a lot of new viewers who are watching today.
Absolutely. So, part of what we're exploring with this approach of our hybrid combat is offering the player the functionality to utilize either tab targeting or a reticle-based action camera mode. And there are benefits to each, and both of them are kind of providing the player what they feel most comfortable with playing as. All of our attacks are going to be stat opposed, unless they're a templated attack, right? In which case, there will be certain bonuses and or stronger applied chances for certain types of CC effects to be applied, or potential, excuse me, or potentially evasion and accuracy aspects of it. These are all things that we plan to test throughout Alpha 2 to kind of see where the player base lives in those two options of their action or tap target based attack modes. The important part here is that this is still a work in progress, right? This is meant to give you kind of a look at where our approach has now been living over the past several months when it comes to combat based off of what we learned in Alpha 1, what player...
Every time you say it's work in progress and it's never complete anything, okay? They never decide or get satisfied with anything they do, because everything always have problems that so when you make video games, you achieve something and then you proceed. Okay, you get something that works and that give you good feelings, and so that's how we make video games. If you start every time from zero, you are not going to reach 100. You are never going to develop a video game. Then you will end up with so many features that are incomplete, and you don't know how um, to use them and to mix them, so and to make them work. So that's that show that they have designing problems. They don't believe in their abilities.
Feedback has been along the way, and how we can create a compelling system of combat between these very different classes and weapon types. And that is something that I think, as you guys see now, our progress towards range combat, to me, it's feeling really good. I'm enjoying playing.
So it feels good. Yeah, it's very basic. You don't need to do hard things to make one object hit another object. It's not hard. It's not doesn't mean you are designing a video game. But yes, you are said many interesting things. Okay, Steven, you always say interesting things, but the results are always bad. You don't show good results. So okay, so Steven, you are saying so many good things that should be designed. Okay, that how to evade, how to make all those things, and you say I mean, or my now so many years have passed and you still didn't design a way to use all those game concepts, evasion, okay, this hybrid system. I still don't get how it works with the ranged thing. Okay, you keep changing it, and you always start from zero.
It. I like the feeling of getting in and taking these shots with these bows. I love the sound. I'm loving the environment. I'm loving the impact hits on the creatures.
I love the grass. I love the environment. Yeah, we all do. You're selling good stuff.
There's a lot of work still to be done on visual effects, on more sound, and kind of on these abilities and how they flow. But things are feeling fluid. They're not cumbersome. You're not having to stand still and be rooted in place. And you still keep a lot of the agency, even between tab target or action combat mode. Both of them are letting the player move freely throughout their attacks.
All right. And then I think
yes, sure, you need to be able to move, and that's true, but you also should design as ways to you should design a little bit of both. You need to design a system that implement both.
from the video perspective, you did try to explain a little bit of this, but kind of a clear understanding of how the auto attack works versus like the abilities and how you see those things intertwining, how you see people using the auto attacks versus the abilities. Obviously, the ones here didn't have cooldowns, as Trad said, but in the future they will.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's important to note that auto attacks in previous MMOs that many of us have played kind of serve as a filler between rotations. And as your rotations go on cooldown, you go to your filler auto attacks. That's not the intent in Ashes of Creation. Ashes of Creation has separate and bespoke weapon skill trees that you develop over time when you gain experience in using these particular weapon types, these weapon groups. And those skill trees provide a lot of versatility, both horizontal and vertical power progression. Sorry, do you hear the doorbell in the background?
Yeah, we all do. Everyone in chat's like, pizza's here.
I'm so sorry, guys. This is unintended and unexpected for me to be here for the stream. Yes, come on in. I'm sorry.
Sorry, what?
Yes, that's fine.
You are sorry because you can show to people that you enjoy your living, because you maybe feel guilty about you not being able to deliver what you promised. Those are all psychological traits. I mean, they act. They sometimes act like this. Okay, so don't be ashamed of the things that people tell about you. So
I'm so I'm so sorry, guys. But anyways, the weapon skill trees are intended to provide a lot of synergy between your rotational abilities and the weapon type that you've chosen. And as you progress, you're going to be able to influence things like number of attacks, speed of those attacks, procs that occur on those attacks, status conditions that can be applied to the target based on these basic attacks. And then when you see those things proc and happen on the target, that's when you use certain rotational abilities in your class kit to complement those proc effects, right? So you're watching out, you might get a telegraph through animation. Maybe your character does an odd type of release on the weapon animation attack, and that tells you, ooh, I'm procking on this attack. Let me now go use this ability that has a 30% upswing on power or damage because they're under a certain status effect that's granted by my weapon ability.
All right. And then we had a question
Just
from
was-
Babai.
let me. This is important. So he did a very chaotic explanation. So let me understand better.
Speed of those attacks, procs that occur on those attacks, status conditions that can be applied to the target based on these basic attacks. See, even between tab target or action combat mode, both of them are letting the player move freely throughout their attacks.
All right. And then I think
yeah.
from the video perspective, you did try to explain a little bit of this, but kind of a clear understanding of how the auto attack works versus like the abilities and how you see those things intertwining, how you see people using the auto attacks versus the abilities. Obviously, the ones here didn't have cooldowns, as Trad said, but in the future they will.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's important to note that auto attacks in previous MMOs that many of us have played kind of serve as a filler between rotations. And as your rotations go on cooldown, you go to your filler auto attacks. That's not the intent in Ashes of Creation. Ashes of Creation has separate and bespoke weapon skill trees that you develop over time when you gain experience in using these particular weapon types.
So no, I don't know. If you have skill trees, then the auto attacks don't feel aren't used when your abilities are in cooldown, because I mean this was clearly it wasn't a bad thing. Okay, it wasn't either great, but I mean, older video games had the very had the limitations, and I mean, let's continue because it's not clear what he's saying.
These weapon groups, and those skill trees provide a lot of versatility, both horizontal and vertical power progression. Sorry, do you hear the doorbell in the background?
Yeah, we all do. Everyone in chat's like, pizza's here.
Horizontal and vertical progression about powers. Okay, I explain me this. just refer to the in-game abilities and to the numbers. Don't don't do how you say it. Um, um, don't talk with by making associations. Okay, it's just more confusing.
I'm so sorry, guys. This is unintended and unexpected for me to be here for the stream. Yes, come on in. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yes, that's
I
fine.
need to eat.
I am so I'm so sorry, guys. But anyways, the weapon skill trees are intended to provide a lot of synergy between your rotational abilities and the weapon type that you've chosen. And as you progress, you're going to be able to influence things like number of attacks, speed of those attacks, procs that occur on those attacks, status conditions that can be applied to the target based on these basic attacks. And then when you see those things proc and happen on the target, that's when you use certain rotational abilities in your class kit to complement those proc effects, right? So you're watching out. You might get a telegraph through animation. Maybe your character does an odd type of release on the weapon animation attack, and that tells you, ooh, I'm proccing on this attack. Let me now go use this ability that has a 30% upswing on power or damage because they're under a certain status effect that's granted by my weapon ability.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then
Okay. Yeah. It's very good. I mean, he sometimes say nice design ideas. So, hmm. Yes. Well, I mean, he indeed, Evan. This puts some light and hope for me. Okay, because making making abilities. Okay. Uh, so using certain combos, okay, and abilities that need require conditions, it's more dynamic and skill-based kind of combat. This is something that um, if done right, it's not easy to do, okay, but if done right, can make combat feel very good. So this is maybe the first time I hear something actually good, so I didn't expect that. So the problem is that we need to see if what is, if what he say it's also going to be good. It's going to be um, I mean well designed in the video game. So yeah, good news here.
I had a question from Baba Yaga, who is asking, will rangers be required to carry arrows? And I saw a lot of other people asking about, will we have arrows, or will crafters have to craft arrows, things of that sort. Just
so we are not tracking ammunition in the game. I'm not sure how much that brings to gameplay. Not much. Usually it's just a cumbersome tracking that you have to do. I kind of attribute it to similarly in tabletop RPGs when I have to have my players track their bolts or their arrows, how many they've used. And I used to be a real stiffler on the DM side of it, where especially at low levels, where they would fire an attack, release an arrow in D&D or in Pathfinder or something, and if they missed, they would roll a 50% chance of whether they could recover the ammunition.
I know, Steven. I've been there. I was one of those people. You did this to me.
that's fun if the party's low, but no, I'm sorry. In MMO gameplay, it just doesn't make sense. It's not that interesting. We are, however, with that being said, we are thinking about unique buffs that can be applied to your weapons that are on a per instance basis of the attack. So, for example, you might have a quiver that you can activate on a cooldown. And that quiver might apply some type of rider effect on the basic weapon attack that you have equipped. Or you might have some type of alchemical consumable that applies it to your melee weapon.
I mean, okay, this instead is not a good, very nice new, because ranged weapons are. I mean, you are just removing one cool feature about ranged weapons with the, well, with the because you indeed didn't find a solution for some design problems, and yes. It can be fine if you don't put munitions, but it's also much better if you do use them.
Those I think are interesting because they add an element of horizontal gameplay depending on the adversary you're facing or the challenge you're up against.
All right. And the next question here is, are bows hit scan or projectile based?
They are projectile based.
And then we have. Oh, go ahead.
You'll notice that in the video, when I switched to the action combat reticle mode, I was able to fire the bow as a blind fire. And I didn't need to have a target in order to do that. That's one of the differences between tab and action combat mode, is that you can launch projectiles in the action combat mode as a blind fire option. And if a target or if something moves in the way between the time of that projectile launching and impacting its either max distance or a piece of terrain or another target, it's possible that players might move into that projectile range.
Yeah, and you saw like the projectile sitting on like.
Okay, so tab targeting games also usually had those abilities that didn't require target, so it's just still a tab targeting game. But yes, it adds maybe the fact that the projectile actually have a collision. So if a player interacts with the projectile, then the projectile maybe activate before reaching the destination. So it's a very little. I mean, doesn't matter much. It's very little improvement. But yes, this is just old style tab targeting, and it's not an improvement.
Whatever it landed on for a little short bit there too, which is really cool.
Well, at least they know how to make good tab targeting, because making abilities, making tactical choices in the usage of the abilities, for example, choosing. For example, doing using certain ability because they are more effective, or making combos with abilities. Those are basically the things that you need to add to make a tab targeting video game work and be good. The better you do it, the better it's going to be. But yes, at least it's something basic to make a good MMO. So at least they are trying. At least they can get some. I mean, if they are able to do it, this game can be a little bit better and interesting. I mean, it can be better, okay, let's see.
I forwarded it to show that case that as you were talking about it. So hopefully
Awesome.
that lined up with what he was saying. And then we have from Valiant Salad, which is just a hilarious name to begin with. I love it. They asked if a ranger doesn't have a bow equipped, can they still use their airstrike? Like, would they still be able to use certain abilities even if they didn't have their bow equipped?
Some abilities will require that certain pieces of equipment are equipped. That's true for melee abilities like a shield bash requiring a shield to be equipped, or certain ranged abilities requiring a ranged weapon to be equipped as well. It's important to note that as part of the Ashes of Creation paper doll, you have a melee main hand and offhand slot, and then you have a ranged slot as well. So you don't have to switch between weapons per se. If you execute an ability that requires a ranged weapon, but you have your melee weapon out, it will automatically swap to the ranged weapon, use the ability, and then back to your melee weapon.
This is indeed always those are video game, they call it them improvements, but those are one of the things that makes the video game worse. This is just lazy designing. It's not something better. How do I call it? Like the group finders and all those things that make life easier in video games. You're just removing features and making the video game much simpler.
For your basic attack, should you choose, and then you can select which weapon you want to have available, your melee or your ranged for the basic attack, and you can swap between those two even in combat. But they're still equipped. One other thing I want to point out about ranged combat and projectile-based action target mode is, take for example a situation in a siege where you might be on top of a wall, and you might acquire a target through tab that you see. And by the way, when you're in reticle mode, you can still use tab to cycle through hard targets. You have this differential between soft target lock and hard target lock. Hard target tracks the target when, even if you're in reticle mode, it tracks that target. You can use abilities against that target as if you were in tab mode. And if you have, let's say you're on that wall and you're shooting down at enemies who are just out of range, you can fire those projectiles off at the ground. And if they move within range and in that area, they'll be impacted by the projectile.
All right. And then It's No Me wants to know, can you swap the bow in between your combos? Like if you're doing quick shot and swap to a different bow to maximize mobility and DPS?
Yeah, so you can always hot weapon swap even in combat, but you can't swap your armor and gear. Nothing that's in a hand or range slot if you're in combat.
All right. And then Nethery98 wants to know, how is a melee supposed to catch up to a ranger running away from them if they're full speed? So, like, if a ranger's supposed to be super mobile, what are the melee's options in order to catch them?
It depends on the melee user.
This is very ugly because it's you will have certain weapons that are bad for fighting and but good for mobility, so you are going to I mean, can you also remove the weapon from your hand? Because otherwise you need to swap weapons to be more mobile, and it always depends on how you do it. So if you can very fast swap between weapons, then it's going to be a little bit messy, because you need to swap to run, and then you swap again to do damage, and that can be boring. But if you add some I mean, even some timing, or you simply make the player, yes, timing is important in those situations. Um, there was another thing I wanted to say, but let's go.
Right? Obviously, different class kits will provide different gap closers. They'll provide different mobility skills. They'll have lockdowns. They'll have chains to pull back. They'll have a lot of different things in the rotation, right? That's part of what an MMORPG experience is. You're not just restricted to 3 or 6 skills. You have a rotational suite, and depending on the type of challenges you face is going to help determine which of those rotations you spec into from your skill tree. If you're having problems against rangers because they're constantly getting away, then it's probably a good idea for you to spec into abilities that lock the target down, that give you mobility, or that allow you to have zone control within the battlefield.
All right. And then folks were wondering, do I have to have a target in my crosshair to use snipe or quick shot?
For abilities,
So again, everything is fine, but again, all those live streams are just Steven talking about design ideas and features he promised, and that uh, that he say will had. Okay, it doesn't show any of the things he's saying. Okay, it's just like some basic video game structure that you can make in very few times, very easily, and then you have a guy or designer that talk about the feature you promised to put. Okay, and so you need to show something that work, anything.
it depends on the ability. If the ability requires a target, yes, you will be required to have a target even in the action mode. If the ability, however, is a templated attack, such as a line attack or a AoE attack, a cone attack, those will not require you to have a target. You can fire those anticipating movement of an individual or target within the zone of effect.
Yeah, it's classical World of Warcraft style design, combat design, and I don't like this because it's old style thing. It's old style game design that have certain problems that are hard to balance.
And then I think there was questions in regards to the bow and the longbow versus the short bow. Are there different ranges, damages? Like, what's the difference between the two of them?
Yeah, I mean, the cool thing about our approach for weapons within Ashes of Creation is that weapons they're not just stat sticks, right? They have different feels. As was demonstrated both in the melee examples with the greatsword and the daggers, as well as now with the longbow and the shortbow. These changes can be pacing, they can be speed, they can be critical rates, they can be critical damage, they can be base damage values, they can be separate effects.
Yes, but this is between weapons, okay? They asked the difference about the two kind of weapons. I don't think they are the same. So
like the longbow has a charge up on its basic attack, whereas the shortbow doesn't. There's more root motion in the greatsword than there is.
So yeah, probably one is faster and another one is slower. That's not a good idea, but okay.
Necessarily in the daggers, the idea is because each weapon type has an associated weapon tree for progression, we almost want each of these weapon groups to feel distinct in the way they play. And because of that, it touches a lot of different aspects of the combat for them.
So yes, you want them to feel unique. You want them to everything to be good and amazing. But it's different. What you want is different to what you actually deliver.
I think the last one is I see a lot of conversation in regards to this is and I know you talked about it a little earlier about what the benefits are for tab versus
Sure.
action. And I feel like a lot of people feel like tab is just easier, so why would I use, action? So I don't know if you want to kind of go into a little bit more detail about the benefits of one over the other.
So we talked about the ability to blind fire, not requiring a target in order to shoot, right? That's one of the benefits. And the difference is,
And
the focus.
what you mean by that too is that you can shoot without having to have a target in regard for action combat, but that doesn't mean it's gonna like beacon honing, go find the target. So keep that in mind, folks.
So
Right.
wait,
So that
is this hybrid combat that you can choose to not target the? I mean, let's hear again.
of it can be playstyle as well. Different players prefer different modes of combat. And for a lot of action players, having that reticle, having the camera tied to the movement of the cursor or the movement of the mouse, that is an element that they want to incorporate. If you were to ask me, do we lean more towards tab or more towards action? In the past, I've always said we lean more towards tab targeting. But that doesn't mean there is not a playstyle of action that provides the user some benefits to it. Now, there are some downsides to it as well. And those downsides might be that if you're in a massive brawl, the ability to pick and choose targets that are far in the back line, that might be more advantageous towards tab target users because they're able to click. But the reaction time to acquire a target for a cursor versus acquiring a target for a reticle is much faster and less cumbersome because it doesn't require as many actions on behalf of the user, such as finding the nameplate, clicking on it to acquire the target, then activating the ability. Whereas with a reticle option, all you need to do is orient your camera towards that target and fire off the missile or fire off the attack. That is a component as well.
All right.
Is speed
So what?
fire target.
I think we
So why you said that? Well, for what reason you give us that information? Was it just to show you video game concepts or? Okay.
be here all day if we answered all the questions, but we do have a forum thread over on our forums. If you go to forums.ashesofcreation.com, we do have a basic range attack updates thread over there. Please head on over there, give us our feedback. Steven specifically is asking for things that you liked. So from looking at this video, what are the things that you like from it? And then also telling us your experience from other games or experiences in regards to ranger classes that you would like to see and experience in Ashes of Creation. And both of those pieces, we will be putting together a report and sending that over to our development team so that they can take that into consideration as they move forward. Obviously, they will make the
They add stuff. I mean, you want a white rock on top of birch trees. Okay, yeah, yes. I mean, this is just prostitution of design choices. It's not doesn't have anything to do with feedbacks, and I explained that in the previous video.
decisions they want for the game that they're making, but we always like to hear your guys' feedback and take that into account when we're creating things and making sure that we're all on the same page in regards to what we're wanting to do.
You don't like that.
So with that, I think we're going to move on to the character art stuff, unless you have anything else you want to add, Stephen.
No, just everything you said, right? Providing that feedback is very important. Give us your thoughts, analyze the video, talk about the things you like and the things you dislike. Talk about, make sure to include both. It's very important that we understand where the strengths lie and where the feedback is important, right? So make sure you guys are doing that. We're going to be uploading this to YouTube shortly.
Again, give them feedbacks, give them the solution to make their video game. Okay, just it's not your video game, but you will design this video game, so
after the stream, I think you guys already did that, Margaret.
Yeah, we're prepared.
And that'll go live. That'll be in 4K, so you get to see the full glory of the map and the environment, and you can just see. I mean, really, it is awe-inspiring the talent of artistry that we have on this team, and it's always fun to see. Oh my gosh!
We just get the cacophony of noises from your hotel room. We'll move on to our character art update then. Some of which you've seen some of the things in game, but we will switch over there. So first and foremost, we have these lovely snake folk. This is the Najash tribe, which
yes, they always show cool things because they don't have features to share, to show, or they don't have any content. So okay. The problem is that Steven does understand that money is not the only thing that you need to have to make a good video game. Because it seems that the fact that you have money makes you believe you can achieve what other people didn't achieve. And I just want to tell you that the more money any company has, the worse the video games are. Single indie poor video game designers, they do cool video games. They always did the best video games, while also who invented all the best technology we have now wasn't rich and didn't use money. So, and I know and I understand and I explain you why this happened, but but yes, money doesn't give you any power. Okay, you're doing the same mistake that Blizzard does, and they think that with the money they can pay quality, they can buy quality. No, that's not it.
is pretty cool. Definitely check them out. I'm excited for you guys to see these when they animate. It's going to be really cool. They're in a T-pose, obviously. We show a lot of our models in these states. But yes. Very, very cool. This is something that Danny worked on, which looks awesome. I'm excited to fight them. You guys will have to tell us what kind of abilities you'd like to see them having. Next up, we have our living statue knight. And I have a couple different versions of this so you can see them, but this is from Eli. You can kind of see them falling apart too, the pieces of them, which is really cool. And then also when they're all combined into one piece. But very neat. Welcome back. We're looking at the living statue. We just finished looking at the Najash tribe.
Loving these guys. These will be a lot of fun. Did you talk about their placement and kind of origins?
I have not for this or these guys, if you want to go over that stuff.
So these were the living statues we're talking about?
Well, we went over the
Oh.
snake folks, and then
Okay.
also. Yeah.
So obviously, as you guys know, the world is rich with history and lore, and part of this is enemy factions, and you're seeing with the Najash. There's some stories behind this that you'll experience in Alpha 2 with these creatures, and understanding kind of their origin, where they came from, where they inhabit now. There's a deep city that has been destroyed, but also preserved under a significant amount of magma. And it's really it is a really fun idea. But these are examples of an NPC faction, right? So you're not just going to see. We talked about this in the past. You're seeing the models now. They're not always going to be cobras. Some are going to be rattlesnakes. Some are going to be mambas. They're going to be different variants that are represented as part of these serpent races. And then lastly, is on this one. Oh, perfect. Okay. And then lastly, you see that.
So there are monsters, there are enemies. Just I said that in just few words. Okay. You are not talking about the faction, making a factions like World of Warcraft, I believe, because you didn't. I think you didn't want and just throw away the chance of making a cool fight between players, between having two factions to choose. Those are NPC factions, not players factions.
The living statue that has essentially these were once protectors that got turned into adversaries, and you'll be facing them as you kind of progress throughout the ruins of the ancient world that once inhabited Vera. And they're going to have some unique and interesting animations that almost look. My desire for these is that they almost feel a bit cumbersome in their movement, a bit stop motion-y kind of. I think that's going to look pretty cool. So we'll see how animation deals with that.
I love it. They look pretty sick, so I'm excited to see that come to fruition. Eli did a great job.
Yeah, animation and movie stuff it's great. Okay, now we skip and the video.
Oh, yeah.
And then we've got our zombie shambler.
Who cares?
Moving our
Friendly with the monsters.
and Rankai and some of those things. So if you didn't watch
Faces.
that, definitely go check out our previous updates. We always kind of share.
Development process is you get to go back and look at what they were back in the day versus what they are today, and how they progressed. And that's always a fun experience.
It'll be cool when we do each of the races, when we do videos for each of them, when we show like the first rendition of them back in like when you first started to now. It's going to be so cool to see the changes from them.
I can't. I'm every now and then I think of, and I kind of storyboard in my mind out the journey from there to here.
Yeah.
I create that kind of experience as a video, and boy, is that going to be one crazy undertaking to make that and show everyone who hasn't been part of this journey with us, but will come when the game launches, that they get to look back and say, wow, this is where they came from. this is the iteration time. This is how things changed over time. And just to see that is really.
You think that you have something good now? We probably can't understand him because maybe they can't show us the video game. That's a possibility. So they maybe have on their hand a wonderful video game, but we can't see it because they don't want to. Anyway, now I will end up the stream, and yes, it's always the same. They put themselves in such high on an high level, that when they are going to face reality and drop down like New World, like all those video games, it's going to be. I mean, they will probably have 1 year of success if the game is playable, but then it's not going to be, I believe, anything um, that lasts. Um,
Interesting, I think. It's fun.
Yeah. And of course, we're going to talk a little bit about our studio updates. So I'll kind of hand it over to you, Stephen, if you want to talk a little bit about that, and then we'll get into our final Q&A from the forums, and we'll be wrapping up today's stream. So we appreciate you all bearing with us because it's a long one.
Yeah, the studio update's pretty short and sweet. We're keeping our heads down right now, working towards Alpha 2. There's been a lot of great progress on the design, engineering, and art teams towards that end. A
Nice.
lot of we picked up some good hires this month. We are continuing to have open positions on our website, which the community team has posts updates for every now and then across our socials. Make sure to help us spread that word. And I think come the end of the year and the beginning of next year, we're going to have another significant hiring push again to bring on a lot of more talented artists, engineers, and designers on the team. And I couldn't be more happy with the state of development right now for the game. Things are in the best place they've been since we started this journey.
Yeah, you've been on a long journey.
It's always the same laugh and the same or same word. They are the same live streams. Well, I hope you are hiring because you aren't actually happy about the product and how it's going, and you will not find one. If you are lucky, maybe. I mean, if someone some good designer decide to help you, maybe yeah, it can happen. But the way you jet people isn't going to lead you to any improvements. I speak cat language. So yeah, I will stop the video and bye bye.